everybody. Thanks for joining me here on Drum Talk TV. I'm Dan Schinder, and today I've got a guest who I've been wanting to interview for a long time. Many of you know him. Many of you interact with him on Facebook. We'll talk about that as well. His name is Matt Patella, and I want to tell you a little bit about Matt in case you haven't read his history book. He started playing drums a long time ago, back in 1958. He was 12 years old. Things were quite different then. Drumming, drum equipment, drum instruction. There was no social media. It was really quite a different world back then. Shortly after that, he started playing drums in drum and bugle corps. He also started playing in high school bands, marching band, and took local lessons. The other thing that Matt did is he joined the U.S. Army in 1967. Thank you very much for serving, Matt. Me and my family appreciate that very much. And he played in the 174th and 15th U.S. Army Band. I can't wait to hear about that. Throughout his career, he studied, like I said, with many local instructors, but none of them really compared to the years and years he spent studying off and on with Joe Morello. He studied Joe's playing and Joe's natural stone technique, and then began playing with some very high-profile acts, such as some guy you may have heard of by the name of Gene Krupa. He played with Wes Montgomery, Jerry Lee Lewis, Chubby Checker. I could do a whole show on just Matt's background without even Matt here, but we're going to get to Matt. He also hosts, as I mentioned, several Facebook pages that are geared specifically towards drumming education. We'll talk about that, but let's welcome Matt. Matt, how are you? Thanks for joining me.
How you doing, Dan? Pleased to be here.
Oh, thank you. Doing great.
Thanks for inviting me.
Sure, my pleasure. I think the first thing I'd like to jump right into, Matt, is if you could tell everybody really who aren't familiar with Joe Morello's technique that you studied and how that worked in your playing. Can you please kind of elaborate on that a bit? I mean, I know we only have 30 minutes, but if you can kind of give a little outline, I'm sure it will help a lot of us out.
Okay, no problem. There's a lot of misconception about a lot of different techniques, and I've been through quite a few of them, the seesaw method, the molar system, and whatever, and nothing can really compares to George Lawrence Stone, his method, the way Joe Morello taught it. But in reality, all of these methods, none of them really created it. It's just a natural flow. It's Sir Isaac Newton, the law of gravity. And the molar thing is just something that was around at that particular time by Sanford Moeller. And he taught Jim Chapin, and Jim Chapin, you know, like everyone else who studies with anyone, loves their teacher and continued the method that he learned from Sanford Moeller. Now, Sanford Moeller was a great teacher, but he studied with a Civil War drummer, and which is fine. I mean, that Civil War drummer, and these guys, they would have marching drums with ropes as opposed to for tuning, as opposed to tension rods, and they were out on the field and they're giving signals from the commander as to the troops to fire, to load, to retreat, attack, and the drummers had to really pound on their drum, coming from over their head and hitting the drum. So this is how Sanford Moeller learned, and Sanford Moeller passed, with a little modification, that technique on to Jim Chapin. And Jim Chapin was a beautiful man, a great drummer, and a great educator. And but he carried on that, and what happened was George Lawrence Stone kind of modified the system as to where Joe Morello perfected the system. It's just a natural flow. You hit a drum, the stick comes back. You're in position to attack an accent naturally, without any kind of disruption at all. And that's the flow of the technique. You know, there's nothing wrong with any of the techniques, but some of it is prehistoric, with the change of, different equipment, like, tuning a drum with a key as opposed to tightening up a rope, pounding in a field or playing in a band in a club. If I have to hit a drum from all the way up here and come down and pound it, well, it's either make a decision. You either quit the gig or tell the sound man to turn you up. But all the techniques are really good, but some people just don't understand the difference. And I'm trying to make educational videos, instructional videos, to explain the difference. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I use what I use, and it works for me, and it has worked for all my students. Mm-hmm. And people tell me that it's wrong and whatever. So I say, well, God bless Joe Morello. He passed away about a year or two ago. I would say, well, then everything that I learned from Joe Morello was incorrect. So they take it from there,
Yeah.
But that's about that. But there's just a misconception of the techniques. And I'm trying to not straighten it out because I am not on a quest. I just love to play. And I just want to, make it easier and bring my knowledge that I have about these techniques and make it, present them to other drummers, and they can make their own decision. What works for them works for them.
Right, and that's a great point. You mentioned two other points I'd like to touch on in all of that. One is that physics is physics. You can't change that no matter what the technique is. But you also mentioned a word over and over that I've really been a proponent of lately, and I've been putting up other videos of other drummers demonstrating this of many different styles, and that is flow. And when I hear the word flow, Matt, I think of fluidity, and I see so many drummers play that look so tense and so rigid, they won't relax, and there is no fluidity or flow in their playing. And what they don't realize is even if they're a rock drummer or a heavy metal drummer, you can absolutely relax and play with fluidity, even if you want to be slamming away. But a lot of guys are just too tense and too rigid. What do you see out there that if there was one thing you could change or give advice on everybody's playing, what would it be?
Well, I would say to develop a strong foundation and understand what occurs with the drum stick when it makes impact on the drum. Mm-hmm. Whatever sound you want to obtain, you take one drum, you can get 500 different sounds on just the one drum.
Right. Or
the way you hold the drumstick, or so to speak, squeeze it, which is ridiculous, but you can develop all these different sounds. Mm-hmm. What I see, everybody talks molar, but they don't know what molar is. They really don't. And, it gets very confused in the mix. Like I said, I make instructional videos and I get comments back, great molar. And I didn't use nothing with molar. and everybody talks about molar. Right. And I see guys play, and these are well-known guys. I mean, guys that are in the public eye in the drum community, great drummers, don't use molar. There's nobody uses it.
Do you think often they're using a buzz term more than the technique?
I think that, it's just a reference that it was picked up years ago as this is the molar technique, but it's not really a molar technique. Like I said, it's the law of physics.
Right.
You hit a drum, the stick comes back. You don't want it to come back, you hold it down. It's a simple thing. There's no right this and low this and up this, and that gets very confusing.
Yeah.
And execution on YouTube, execution of rudiments, for example. I play rudiments, and we all do. We don't even know. Some of them say, I'm not a rudimental drummer. Well, you play singles and doubles, that's rudiments.
Right.
And you combine them, they're hybrids. Whatever.
Right.
I just think that the young guys coming up have a misconception of all this technique, because there is a lot of technique out there, and I'm not saying what is right or what is wrong, but I can tell you what I use and what works for me. On a professional level, I'm not going to downgrade anyone else's technique because that works for them.
Right.
But it's simple. 1 + 1 = 2.
And you can't change that.
Old school or new school. Sir Isaac Newton got hit in the head with an apple, and he was a very famous man. And it's the same principle with a drumstick. You throw it down, you're going with gravity. It comes back up, it's against gravity. And you control that. And you play what you want. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of training, and a lot of understanding of that concept. You have a little kid, 6, 7, 8 years old, you give him a pair of drumsticks, he naturally would grab the drumsticks either French or German. And he's going to try to play something real fast or try to imitate you, and you ask him to hit one harder, well, he naturally lifts the stick and throws it down. That's just a natural movement.
Right.
And everything that George Lawrence Stone broke down, and Billy Gladstone, also I didn't mention his name, and Joe Morello, it's just a natural flow. Why prevent something from being natural? You know, guys hold a drumstick like they prevent it from happening, but they're holding the stick right. So that's like getting in your car, pressing on the accelerator and the brake at the same time.
Right.
No, it's just, it don't happen.
Yeah.
You know, there's no right or there is no wrong, but there is an easier way, and there's a natural way, and you let it flow. Tension should not exist at all in anyone's playing. Tension is just a sign of insecurity, and they're uncertain of what they're doing, or their attitude. They need to show off, and they have to be the greatest. They don't play to the music. They want to play the fastest singles in the world. They want to play the fastest double beaters or double bass drums in the world, which makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
I play because I love to play music, and I want the music to feel good. And it's a place where most people have never been. And once you get there, you love it. And there's no competition. You're just enjoying it.
Right.
And that's one attitude I've noticed that goes around a lot, is the competitive attitude. Well, he's better than me, or he's better than him. There is nobody better than nobody. Everybody's different.
Right. We all have our different way of playing, our different styles.
And we all enjoy playing.
Right.
Simple.
Exactly. Let's touch for a moment, Matt, on stick gripping. I find myself while I'm playing, I notice depending on what I'm playing, I sort of tend to switch back and forth depending on the beat or the rudiment or what drum on my set where I'm playing. I see myself switching from French to German, or sometimes my right hand might be writing with a French grip and I'm hitting the snare with a German grip. And then, of course, there's a traditional cross match. How important is it, or is it important that new drummers learn the different grips? I mean, is it at least important to learn them to find out what would work best for them? Is there a special purpose for learning the traditional grip? Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. When I first started, it was traditional grip, and for drum corps it was traditional grip.
Right.
And I learned traditional. And when they had the English invasion, like the Rolling Stones or the Beatles or all those guys, Led Zeppelin,
Right.
everyone came and holding the sticks. They would refer to it as either match grip or parallel,
Right.
not knowing the difference between French or German or traditional. Now, in my opinion, I think that holding the stick either German or French is a natural way.
And can you please show, for those who don't know, can you show the difference, please, between French and German for those that aren't familiar with the terminology?
Okay, well, this was referred to at first. Can you see my hands?
Yes.
All right, at first, this was referred to as parallel or match, which both hands are holding the same. Now, this comes from the German classics, the German percussionists. When you're holding your sticks German, the back of your hand is facing your face. That's German. When you hold French, you turn your sticks around and the thumbs are facing your face.
If you could hold them up a little higher, please. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Thumbs are touching you're seeing your thumbs. German is the back of your hand.
Perfect.
You see your face. French is this.
Thank you.
Now I learned, and the word that has come from is the classics, the German percussionist and the French percussionist. You know, the classics, they had very little snare drum because the drum itself in music is very young. It's less than 200 years old. And, you know, when a composer would want, they put a snare drum into their music, well, who else was going to play it? The timpani player or the marimba player, the xylophone player, and that was either from the French school or the German school. Now, traditional grip, everybody thinks it started with the drum corps. Well, it didn't start in the drum corps. It started in Africa many, many, many moons ago. I don't know exactly the years or whatever, but if you go on Wikipedia, you see a couple things and some good information where they had a drummer from Africa would hold a drum underneath his arm and would play his left hand, and he would hold traditional. And now, that traditional thing, and it was, you know, for the drum corps, because the drum corps, we used to have slings as opposed to harnesses.
So the drum was tilted.
It was tilted,
right.
And yeah, everybody was in sync this way. And to me, that's the way I learned, and I have so many thousands of hours that way. I enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And I get more out of my stick, and I think I have more of a sensitive issue playing different things with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do change once in a while. I do play German or French, depending on the situation.
Right.
And if I want to develop my right side and my left side equally on the drum set, what they call an open-handed these days, which should be ambidextrous, because we as drummers don't know the difference, you know.
Right.
But instead of leading just with my right hand, I'll do it on my left side and lead with the left. Now, it's more, it serves a better purpose to lead your left hitting the ride like this and the right like this. So I'm moving, and like I said, it is actually a better way, a more natural way, as opposed to this.
Right.
Now, I play jazz trios, quartets, or quintets, and I find that playing this way for me, I can get the most out of my drumsticks and out of the sound for what I want. But this gives me a lot more options. So if I play all three ways, I'm happy. And you should learn all three ways and compare them. You know, they all should work. Maybe one will work a little bit better than the other, but they will all work if you work at them and practice. Simple.
Yeah, that's great insight. Thanks. The next thing I want to ask, I know that we could do a whole 90-minute show on this next question, and I've been wanting to ask you this since we met, because I know this really is such a topic. Why should, it's almost a rhetorical question, but you'd be amazed how many people really need to hear the answer to this question. Why should drummers learn to read music?
Well, why should a piano player learn how to read music?
Exactly.
Should a trumpet player? Well, first off, you know, rhythm is felt eventually in an improvisational kind of way. You know, when you're playing, you're improvising off a melodic structure or whatever it might be you're doing. Mm-hmm. But as a beginner or even intermediate student, to understand how rhythm flows and makes sense musically is extremely important, and in my opinion, it's a must. Now, there are guys that will be satisfied with just hearing something and playing it, but that limits them. See, that just gives them one sort of place to be, you know, whereas if they knew how that rhythm was flowing or they knew how to read it, they could expand their creativity.
Right.
And understand reading or rhythm a lot better. I think it's very important. I think it's the basis of your foundation. Sure, you internalize it, you feel rhythm eventually, but to understand it, it's going to make you play. It's going to make you understand rhythm better and play better.
Right, because you need to understand music structurally, and I think the only way to know that is to really be able to see what the music looks like. And like myself as an example, Matt, I learned by ear so easily. I mean, when I was 10, 12, 13 years old, I was learning half-hour pieces by ear by Yes and Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I was in concert band and orchestra. I hardly ever looked at the music, and it drove the director crazy. But because I learned so well by ear, but I know that knowing how to read music also, it comes into the way I create also. I may see patterns when I sit at my kit. I may hear things I want to do, but when I can picture what that mathematically should look like, and music really is just math that you can hear. So I think when you wrap your head around that and embrace learning to read music, it opens up a whole new door to your creativity.
Of course. You know, reading is the mechanics. Well, the beauty about reading, you know, you can take reading to any level that you want if you work at it. I mean, you can go do a Broadway show, you can work in a classical situation. But what's the beauty about it is someone is writing something for you, and he wants you to say what he wants through your instrument. Now, that takes a lot of knowledge. Right. And, you know, reading is essential. There is no doubt about it. Like I said, there are guys that don't read, that play by ear. They don't know nothing about music. They don't know nothing about structure of tunes. But yet they play by ear and by feel. But we have that, and as a reader, you're going to enhance your knowledge and make yourself internalize stronger. Simple.
Right. And if you're going to get hired as a studio musician, there may never be any rehearsals. If you get hired to sub for gigs, there may never be rehearsals. If you play clubs or bars or pubs in a band that has a catalog of 400 songs, you're gonna need to learn to read music to take advantage of all those different opportunities.
Well, let's go backwards a little bit here.
Okay.
Jam sessions, for example. What I was talking about, you feel something, you play, because you've had that feel. Everybody has a feel. They need to develop it. But to understand what you're doing, you're going to grow more and more and more. It's simple. Like I said, someone is telling you, gives you a sheet, and said, here's 400 songs, let's work on them. You know how to read, you run it through. You got to make some changes according to the instrumentation or whatever that might be. But nobody, I don't care who it is, whatever feel they have, or whatever experience or knowledge, can come on cold and do 400 songs. Nobody. All right. Even Buddy Rich, the great Buddy Rich, he had a rehearsal drummer. God bless his gift that he could hear it maybe once or twice and play it like nobody else did.
Right.
He's just an exception to one kind of rule. But if you or I were to play a big band and they have a book and say, all right, number 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, you're there, you got to know how to read.
Right.
Or I got to make this point too. For example, if somebody calls me up and said, I want to pay you $5,000 to go to Japan and play with this orchestra. Sure, no problem. I jump in a plane, go to Japan. I get in the airport, no one speaks English.
Right.
I'm in trouble. Okay. So now I go to the rehearsal hall. They open the book. The conductor goes, 1, I'm there. It's an international language.
Right.
People don't want to go with it because reading, that's boring. I got to feel what I play. Sure, they're right to a degree, but also get a structure going on inside. You know where it comes from.
Right.
Same thing with right-handed. I got to go back to this. I forgot to talk to you about this. Right-handed players and left-handed players. Mm-hmm. I always use this thing. If somebody comes to me, they've been playing 100 years left-handed, I'm not going to change it. But as a beginner comes, I say, I'm left-handed. I said, well, good, you got an advantage. Your left hand's going to be stronger than your right. Or I say, well, they say to me, I want to play left-handed. I said, okay, go sit at the piano.
Ah, that's a good one. I love that.
Well, do they change the keys around? Because you left it.
Right.
This is the way you sit at a drum set. The snare's in the middle. All right. I'm not belittling nobody who plays left-handed because that's how they learn.
Sure.
And they're good players. There's some great left-handed players out there.
Oh, yeah.
But my point being, if you're going to play open-handed, it doesn't matter.
You're right. And I think realizing that you are ambidextrous and taking advantage of your ambidexterity and working on that will make you so much of a better player. I mean, absolutely.
Both sides of us are created equal.
Right.
But because we were trained for example, right-handed,
right.
Our left side took a break for 40, 50 years or however old you are.
Yeah.
So when you call on it to play this open-handed or ambidextrous, your left hand goes, now I got to do something. So you're not used to it. But you will find a point where you'll equalize the right and left side and play both ways.
Right. Hey, back on the subject of reading music, Matt, tell us about your books.
Uh-oh. Okay. Well, I'm in the process of publishing, I'd say, 8 different methodology books.
Great.
So I figured I would start with the basic concept of rhythm, which is reading, like we just talked about. Mm-hmm. I just published 2 books. It's The Art of Drumming, Reading Text in 4/4, The Art of Drumming, Reading Text in 6/8. What this does, it's geared for either a beginner or intermediate or even an advanced player, but more so for a beginner, okay, because it's teaching what are some of the possibilities of how rhythm could fall within certain time signatures. Very simple at first and slowly graduates eventually to somewhat difficult in both books, the 4/4 and 6/8. What I did, because I'm not a millionaire and I can't afford to make a DVD yet, mm-hmm. I said, okay, I took advantage of the system and I said, I'm going to publish the books and I'm going to present on YouTube, note for note, measure for measure, line for line, page by page, until the end of each one of the books. Now, that's the reading text in 4/4 and 6/8. And like you did mention, if they want an excerpt of either the 6/8 or 4/4 eventually with the video, I have no problem. Or if they purchase my book, they will get a lesson on Skype about whatever they want to do with the 6/8 book or the 4/4. My third book is rudimental books, solos. And what I named the solos are just different things that happened to me in my life. For example, I used to live across the street from a Catholic school called St. Joe's. So I named a solo St. Joe's. Where I met a couple of good friends on Facebook, and I named another one Chipster.
I like that. And I remember, and we're going to talk about your Facebook pages in a moment, but I remember when you did a post sort of eliciting some ideas from people for your solo titles, and I kind of ran with a natural science sort of weather theme, like to name the solos after different weathers or planetary systems. So it's neat to hear what you finally ended up with. That's really cool. I mean, and how much more personal could it be? You name solos after your parts of your personal life.
Like what just happened, Sandy.
Yeah.
I named one Sandy. Also, we used to have a house with 3 drummers in it. We used to call it the drum house, because that's all it was.
Right.
Constant, 24 hours a day, drums. So we called it drum house. So after the days of teaching or rehearsing or whatever, we would all say, let's go to the diner and get some rice pudding and coffee. So I named another solo rice pudding and coffee. And they thought it was cute.
That is
cool.
They
used to call me the ogre because I was the older one, and I looked always pissed off. Excuse my expression, but I was always serious, and so they would call me ogre. I named another solo ogre.
I can't wait to hear these and see
There's
them.
so many different names. The main book that I'm really working on, and I've been working on for a lot of years, is called Beyond Control. Mm-hmm. And what I've done, and everybody talks about they can do the stick control book this way or that way or whatever, but nobody's ever documented it. Right. So I think I've come up with some very good, unique ideas, and I'm presenting it in this next book, the Beyond Control. That's not going to be available until maybe the middle of 2013. It's a lot of work, and there are some legal things that I am going through with certain people, so I could publish it, and I need to get some sort of clearance.
Right.
But it's just I just love what I do. I have a great time.
That's great.
I love all the drummers. They're really good guys, man. They're beautiful guys. What I don't like, and what really turns me off, and I'm sure it turns a lot of other people off, is arrogance.
Yeah.
Ego. And liars.
Yeah.
I mean, why do you have to lie about playing with somebody when you did? That doesn't make no sense. We are all created equal. We all play because we love to play, and there is no contest.
Right. I don't need arrogance or ego because I know I'm great.
Oh, there you go. Oh, my friend Dan, what's up?
Hey, at the end of this interview, everybody, there will be all of Matt's contact information as well as where you can keep up with and purchase his current publications. Let's shift to where we kind of touched on Facebook. And in this part of the conversation, Matt, I'd also like you to sort of dispel or explain the obvious, which is the difference between music education when you were growing up compared to what it is now. I mean, you have, 7 or 9 different Facebook pages now? They're all geared towards drum education, right?
Right. Well, the idea did come to me when I first signed up for Facebook, and I don't think there was any other drumming groups on Facebook. So I figured, let me start a group called The Art of Drumming. And I invited a few of my friends, and it kind of grew. And there's drummers in that group of all different levels. So The Art of Drumming was more like a home base.
Yeah.
It's in my other groups, like, for example, The Art of Drum Soloing, Concept, the Stick Control Book Room, the Rudimental Room.
Reading Room.
The Reading Room, which I just started, and it's taken off really well. Mm-hmm. And I get a load of inbox messages and chats. I need to shut my computer off so I could do something during the day, because I'm the type of guy that wants to help all the time.
Right.
And I learn from everybody who's in the groups. And there's some really heavy duty hitters in there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name any names, but they're in there.
Yeah, if you join those groups, everybody, you'll see them. And we all do have something to share, Matt, and that's such a great point.
Well, I have this thing, a teacher never ceases to learn.
Right.
And at my age, when I wake up in the morning, that's a gift. But what I do, I can't wait till the next day to see what I'm going to learn that's new to me.
Right.
Everyone I speak to, no matter what level of drumming they may be at or who they are, I do learn something, and I interact. I learned how to type really, really well because of Facebook, but they're all beautiful, man. They just love to share. There is no egos in those rooms. I did have a couple encounters of egos and, people posting in the wrong rooms, and I, discuss with them it's not appropriate,
Right.
And they continue, and I don't remove them from any of the groups unless I check with the other administrators, and we talk about it, and what would be the best for everyone else to go forward, as opposed to someone with an attitude.
Right. Well, I got to tell you, you've created these communities that, well, I don't think I'm unique. So I think if I could say this, I'm saying this for a lot of other drummers. You've created these communities that, I've met some wonderful people. I learned so much sometimes by just sitting back and watching, a string of comments on sometimes a very simple post subject or a video that you or someone else might put up. And I'm completely reevaluating my playing. I feel like I'm learning all over again. And I have to mention somebody else that I know, a good friend of yours, who helped spark this. When I saw a video of Kenny Howard, and it was a video of him on one of your pages, Matt. It was just him sort of fluttering around, playing some sort of fusion solo by himself. And the first thing I said, Matt, was, I got to meet this guy. I want to find out about his playing. I want to have him on my show. And so the funny thing is, and this is really an example of versatility, which I think is a great subject. I got in contact with Kenny, told him who I was, what I was doing. Can I check out your stuff? And he gave me his website. And now here, I know this guy's a fusion player in my head. I go to his website, and when you look up maybe a car dealership on the web and somehow accidentally porn pops up or something you don't expect, or you go to drink iced tea and it's Coca-Cola. I went to Kenny's website, and here comes this blaring speed metal, and at first I was like, whoa, what happened? Am I on the wrong site? And I saw the picture of him, and I realized, whoa, it's the same guy, and he is as master of speed metal as he is at jazz and fusion. And that really was kind of a big spark in me deciding that I want to reevaluate and learn how to play all over again. Because I admit, I was old school. I've been emulating and playing the same music and same drummers for about 30 of those 43 years. And now I'm really trying to open my radar to all the more contemporaries like Glenn Sobel, like Kenny Howard, like Benny Greb, just so many other new drummers that till recently I didn't really even hear of. So thank you for building, these communities that give that sort of exposure and influence on other people like myself.
Well, I'd just like to add this about Kenny. I accidentally hooked up with him on Facebook, but it was a good accident. Mm-hmm. Kenny, as a matter of fact, did come here in the studio. And first of all, Kenny is a hell of a nice guy.
Yeah.
And what makes him very, very good, and he doesn't realize it, is he's always humble.
Yeah.
The man, what'd you do here? How did you do that? What'd you do? The guy is just a beautiful musician.
Yeah.
And he's one hell of a nice guy. And if he has 2 cents and you needed a penny, he'd give it to you. I mean, that's how the guy is. He's just a beautiful guy, and I'm glad he is my friend. And we interact back and forth on a computer, and when he's in Jersey, he'll come here and we'll hang out. Kenny's just a beautiful guy, man. He just, he remains humble. And that's one thing that all other drummers should do, take example from Kenny. Be humble. You be humble, you constantly learn. Attitude turns people off and you won't learn.
Right.
But Kenny's a good example of that.
What are some of the other, or who are some of the other drummers that you admire today, or that you would tell folks in your rooms, hey, go check this guy out? You'll learn something simply by watching and listening and understanding what he's doing. Who are some of the more contemporary players?
Contemporary players?
Yeah.
What do you call you?
Okay.
Vinny Colaiuta to me is not. He has not. I met him a couple times. The first time I met him was by accident. I was taking a lesson with Morello, and when I took a lesson with Morello, there was a waiting room with a couple of drum pads on it, and there's this guy in the room. I mean, blazing fast, practicing. I said, I got to check this guy out. It was Vinny Colaiuta.
Wow.
Vinny Colaiuta did take a few lessons from Joe, and just Steve Smith, Chad Wackerman. There's just so many different. I love them all, man. You know, certain people are stuck in one category, but someone who's very versatile would be someone like Vinny Colaiuta, right, or Steve Smith, or even Dave Weckl, and definitely Steve Gadd. I mean,
right.
You know, what's to say about Steve Gadd? You know, yeah. God bless him.
Yeah.
Thank you for contributing, Mr. Gadd.
Yeah.
I met Steve a couple of times. He's really a great guy, and he's also very, very humble.
Right, I've heard that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
The guy makes his statements the way he does. People admire him. Say, what did he do? How did he do that? And he remains humble.
Yeah. That's
because he's always growing.
Yeah.
You know, he's a little slowed down now because of the age, but I mean, he's always in demand. He has to have an answering service for people calling him to do gigs. The man's just a remarkable drummer. And like I say, other than that, there's the other rock drummers. I don't like to categorize anybody. You're a drummer, you play.
Right.
You know, whether it's rock or fusion, some, like I say, are stuck in one zone and never been experiencing any other zones, which is okay. You know, like I said, I just love Vinny Colaiuta and Steve Gadd.
Right.
And then there's Dennis Chambers, of course.
Yeah.
And Dennis Chambers, and I don't know, there's just so many. I mean, I could sit here and name them for three years,
right,
and I still wouldn't repeat myself.
Yeah.
But they're all beautiful.
Good. That's really good insight for folks out there that maybe haven't exposed themselves to those drummers and those different styles and whatnot. So go check those drummers out. Matt, as I take the audience out and say goodbye, I wonder if you wouldn't mind sitting behind the kit and doing a little bit of soloing over our goodbye. Would you mind?
Well, I don't mind. I don't know how it's going to project into your screen.
I think it'll be fine.
Well, okay.
We'll give it a whirl. Everybody, I hope you've enjoyed this interview with Matt. He's been very gracious, and go on Facebook, whether you're a drummer or not, and please check out the many different Facebook pages that he has. If you friend Matt Patella on Facebook, and you can see his information on the screen there, through his Facebook page, you'll be able to see all the other different Facebook pages as well. I've met some wonderful people. You all know who you are because I comment on your posts, and you're all nice enough to comment on mine. And sometimes I don't comment, as I told Matt, I just sit back and watch. So here's Matt Patella taking us out of Drum Talk TV. Thank you very much. And here's Matt.